A very warm welcome to all of you on this special edition of Z Earth. Z Earth is a cultural festival where we talk about issues related to art, culture, history, and literature. However, the word earth in itself implies economy. So no discussion can be complete without discussing the future of India's economy, as well as understanding what are the challenges before us. We are really glad to have Shri Piyush Goyal ji before us today for this session. He is the Union Cabinet Minister in charge of railways, as well as commerce and industries, and also consumer affairs. So, a very warm welcome to you on this special edition of Z Earth. We know that you and your ministry has been at the helm of recovery efforts, be it the Indian Railways or also promoting India's commerce and trade with foreign countries. And I think the yeoman service that you are doing through these government departments is for all of us to see. The data is before us. However, sir, we wanted to discuss around what are the challenges that India's economy is currently facing. We all understand that COVID-19 has thrown a wrench and has derailed what Prime Minister Modi ji had set out as an aspirational goal for India's economy. He had in 2019, 15th August, from the Red Fort ramparts said that India should aim for a $5 trillion economy. What do you feel today in 2021, early days? We are still into second wave of COVID. How achievable is this $5 trillion goal?
Thank you very much, Rajat. And at the outset, my compliments on the conceptualizing of the Arth Culture Fest. It's truly very important that the nation connects with its history, with its art, with its culture. And I think the Z network is doing wonderful service for the nation in connecting the dots, and within those dots also throwing in the economy. Very clearly, the nation was poised for very rapid growth. The mood in the nation was full of optimism, and on several tracks we were working to move towards a $5 trillion economy. The international interests in India, India's potential, the demand generated in a growing economy of 1.3 billion aspirational Indians, all the building blocks towards a $5 trillion economy were in place. Clearly, COVID is a force majeure situation which brought along with it huge challenges for the economy, for the country. But the good part is that Prime Minister Modi was on top of this entire situation right from the word go. He has consistently and continuously focused his energies and efforts, A, to save lives, B, to protect livelihoods, in that order, and now to save lives and protect livelihoods together. I remember long back in March 2020, when the first information about COVID was coming in, and we could see, when we had the first 200, 300 numbers, we could see that this is a problem that we can't really understand. The dimensions of it were unknown, no cure, symptoms were not clear, everything was a mystery. Prime Minister had started looking at every potential possibility, and he realized that unless we save lives, unless we sensitize our people to this pandemic, unless we prepare the nation's infrastructure to face this challenge, the potential loss on the economy for years to come will be very large. So he went about it very systematically. The timely lockdown, short-term impact on the economy, certainly, and we'll face the consequences of that when the final numbers of this year come out. But that early clampdown, the preparing the nation's infrastructure and our ability to cope with it, our own engagements with the medical world, with science and technology through development of vaccines, working towards ensuring that the whole nation follows COVID protocol, and now the rapid recovery as we unlock the nation are all pointing to getting back the economy on track. There are so many good indicators. I can share one of the railways with you. In terms of freight movement, the railways has moved more freight in a COVID year, 2021 so far, than last year. And we'll end the year at least 10-15 million tons above what we did last year. That itself is going to be a great morale booster for the nation. And the V-shaped recovery that is a matter of record and fact now, and which is being recognized the world over as a model of handling this pandemic. And Prime Minister Modi's leadership throughout this period has been acclaimed across the world. So I personally believe that while we may have had a setback to our $5 trillion economy target, I still believe we have been able to convert this challenge, this crisis into an opportunity. The Atmanirbhar Bharat package and the Atmanirbhar Bharat concept itself is now ingrained in Indian industry, in the people's mind and heart. And I personally believe that we should still shoot for a $5 trillion economy, maybe by 24, maybe 6 months later. But we are well poised to achieve that. And I have the courage of conviction that with Prime Minister Modi's astute leadership and his ability to lead from the front with innovative ideas, India will still do it.
Right. No, I agree with you, sir. Goal setting, any deft CEO would set important goals every quarter for an organization to achieve that and be, really mobilized behind these objective and measurable metrics. But if you were to break down this number, this $5 trillion number, then this would actually stand on 3 or 4 important pillars. One pillar is, of course, agriculture and major reforms in agriculture. We were all waiting for all of these years, which finally happened this year. The other set of pillars here would be manufacturing within the country, making for the world, services sector, and within this trade aspect, I would say exports is going to be a very, very important pillar. And this $5 trillion economy, whenever we achieve, even if it is delayed by a year or so because of COVID, we would need $1 trillion of exports. Today we are sitting at exports, it just went down because of COVID too, keeping that aside, but $300 million to $500 million. That's the, billion dollars. That's the range in which we are right now. But in order to, kickstart India's exports and reach it to the level of $1 trillion, what are the fundamental building blocks that you are laying in place today?
Well, at the outset, I'll just add a couple of more building blocks to what you said. One is the massive infrastructure investments that this government is envisaging. Nearly $1.4 trillion or $1.5 trillion investment in infrastructure over the next 5 years, the National Infrastructure Pipeline, is going to be a huge kickstart to demand generation and boost to the economy. Second, as income levels rise, more and more people get engaged in different activities and the economy, size of the economy increases. Consumption demand also plays a very important role in giving a leg up to the economy. I just thought I'll share that these two are going to be 2 added building blocks. Manufacturing, of course, through the PLI scheme, which is nearly 2 lakh crores, is been very well received. I've been interacting with so many sectors which are being covered by the production linked incentive scheme. There's a huge enthusiasm in manufacturing industry today. When I talk to industry in different sectors, they're all running over capacity. The auto industry has picked up very well. Cement is at almost full capacity. Steel is at full capacity. So industry by and large, petrochemicals, refineries, power plants, all of them have seen the benefits of the recovery, and all of this demonstrates both a demand at the consumer end and a demand at the manufacturing end. Of course, infrastructure investments are giving a boost to cement, steel, providing jobs to people, which also then converts to consumption. As regards exports, including services, we are at about $500 billion. To my mind, it should not be very difficult to reach $1 trillion of exports, because we'll need at least that to sustain a $5 trillion economy. Given our strengths both in being cost competitive, the focus that we are giving on quality, which will help our products become more acceptable worldwide. The fact that the production-linked incentives will also make our products more competitive. The RODTEP scheme, the refund of unremitted duties and taxes and cesses which are outside the purview of GST, which has been rolled out from 1st January, and the rates will soon start coming out. And finally, the fact that our services are in very high-tech areas. So while we've had a setback in the services side on tourism and transport because of the pandemic bringing down that demand, we have huge traction on our technology services exports, on our engagement with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. So I think technology is becoming the bulwark of our service export. And you'll be happy to know, throughout the pandemic, our services exports remained almost, except tourism, were at almost 100% levels. And the way we quickly modulated the rules and allowed people to work from home, moving equipment to home, and the agility of our young Indian boys and girls was demonstrated during COVID, where many parts of the world economies were collapsing and they were not able to keep up with their service commitments. Every Indian service provider maintained high service standards, high levels of performance, and ensured service delivery throughout the pandemic, whether from home or whatever. And all the programs of this government over the last 6 years finally came to help. The Digital India initiative, the fact that today power was there uninterrupted throughout the country, the fact that railways took coal all through the pandemic and had power plants running to capacity so that there was never a power outage through this period. No power outage meant digital technologies worked. Lockdown was successful because people were comfortable at home. The fact that we took grain to everybody's homes and made sure nobody was short of any essentials. The fact that farmers got fertilizer throughout the pandemic through the rail freight system. All of this helped keep the nation actually working, whether from home, whether in the fields. The farming output is up 3.5%. Yes. So in every respect, true leadership and I think skillful leadership that Prime Minister Modi demonstrated, along with his compassionate side, the fact that we should make sure women get some extra money in their pocket, the fact that everybody should get grains in their home. Can we have a Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana so that food grains are supplied free of charge to the poor? The effort to make sure that the migrant labor reaches their home and are taken care of. And the collective conscience of the nation that he was able to enthuse with his powerful messaging through the pandemic, due to which so many NGOs, so many good, well-meaning people got involved in the effort to take care of each other. So I know when the pandemic happened, when the lockdown happened, we had a call with all the top businesses in the country, and we appealed to them that, look, your factories are closed, but you have huge kitchens which used to serve meals to your employees. Keep them running and provide those meals to the poor or to the migrant labor. Our own railway police force, the Railway Protection Force, RPF, distributed some 36 lakh meals to poor people on the streets. The railways gave 2 crore meals and 2 crore 16 lakh packaged water bottles to all the migrant labor who were going back home. No, so it's been a humongous collective effort, both government and the people at large. So it's the collective will of 1.35 billion people. It's that entire world, 135 crore people, which has actually demonstrated that India can come out of a crisis.
Right. But just touching upon the export side, geopolitics is fast changing. We are seeing that newer blocs are emerging, the Quad bloc, which India is also part of. We also know the trade tensions between the US and China. I wanted to understand from you, there was this initial expectation that a lot of firms are going to migrate out of China and will come, and a lot of them are actually showing interest. Do you see that with these fast and rapid changes in the geopolitics, India is poised to really benefit out of this, given the fact that everybody is trying to be inward looking and catering to their job markets in the first place?
True, but at the same time, people are looking at diverse suppliers. They want to move out of their total dependence on one or two suppliers. People are looking at resilient supply chains. People are very concerned about non-transparent or opaque economies being leading to unfair trade practices. And in all of that, India stands out as an oasis in terms of competitive labor pricing, in terms of a strong leadership at the helm of affairs, in terms of a stable government, in terms of the rule of law prevailing, and in terms of the international acclaim or the international diplomacy that Prime Minister Modi over the last 7 years has built a name for India, personal dynamics and personal relationships with many tall leaders, political leaders of different countries, and India's own growing relevance as a big market and as an important supplier. Both are coming into play, which is why I say with confidence that I see no difficulty in reaching $1 trillion exports.
One pillar that we mentioned was agriculture, and you were the representative from the government side in talks with the farmers. There have been ample amount of research which has started coming in that why were these reforms so important. There has been a lot of consultation in the past. I still remember this used to be on a project at Harvard also, when we were talking about reforms, and there were good amount of research which was building up for the past 6-7 years or so, and finally this good day comes when the reforms come in. But do you foresee that talks can eventually converge to a common ground where the farmers actually benefit out of opening up of agriculture and allowing free market forces to come in there?
Rajat, the intention of the government was pure. It was very clearly intended that these laws provide an additional option to the farmers without taking away what they already have. So the MSP system continues as it does for so many years. Whatever the farmers wish to do and which they are doing today, they can continue to do. The law only provides one more avenue. So without touching anything of the past, it opens up fresh doors for those who want to experiment with newer markets, newer ways of doing business, who want to have develop new products, look for new markets, and in a way also protects them from the clutches of middlemen and the old system, where certain places deep amount of repression of the farmers was taking place. I won't say it was everybody is bad, but then there were a set of middlemen, a set of marketplaces which were exploiting the farmers. For such people, it was important that they should have one more option, and that's all that these laws have done. Sadly, politics prevailed. They saw in this an opportunity, because most farmers, the small farmers, marginal farmers, are relatively not all that educated or all that wise about what these laws really mean. So very, very unfortunate that our farmers, particularly in one state, were misled. They were made to believe as if these laws are a compulsory method of procurement, as if these laws are now going to be prevailing over the existing systems, as if their lands will be at threat, whereas the reality is that the laws provide more safeguards for the farmers and their land. Existing laws in many states actually don't provide the safeguard against being jailed. These laws do. They don't allow any farmer to ever go to jail. There will be no prosecution of any farmer under these laws at all. Whereas, and this supersedes existing state laws, including in Punjab. The contract law in Punjab actually provides for a jail term to the farmer if he does not meet the contractual terms. Whereas our law ensures that no action can be taken against the Punjab farmer. No land of the farmer can be touched. This law ensures that. Whereas in the prevailing earlier system, farmers' lands are also threatened by certain exploitative persons. So it's very unfortunate that they have been misled, but I think we have the courage of conviction that when you do good, people realize it, people will ultimately appreciate the goodness of it. As the Honorable Prime Minister said in Parliament, in counter to what arguments sometimes these leaders used to place before us in our meetings, that, well, we didn't ask for these laws, why did you bring these laws? By that logic, as the Honorable Prime Minister said, nobody had asked for a law against triple talaq. No, there was no agitation in the country against triple talaq. There was no agitation in the country when Raja Ram Mohan Roy brought in social reform so many years ago.
No, but when such an important sector has been languishing on growth, they have been facing systemic slow growth of 1%, 2%. It clearly indicates there is something amiss, something which is missing out on the policy front. And I personally feel that any policy practitioner, when you have to push through policies and navigate through these fault lines, it is really very difficult, and it can be easily politically hijacked, and that is why it is such a impossible trinity of sorts.
Fortunately, across the country, it has been widely received well. Right. So the agitation remains restricted to a few districts in one state, really. Right. No, and there it's become more an issue of prestige, and it's gone beyond the realm of a farmer agitation. I don't think there is any structured leadership which is leading the agitation. And we saw the kind of instances on 26 January. We are seeing the kind of comments they are making, the farmer leaders. It's extremely embarrassing, actually, some of the way the discussions and the comments that they were making. And in the discussions with the farmer leaders, when we would try to say that, okay, let's discuss, what is it in the law that you're worried about or that you're unhappy about? They would never discuss on the issues. They would just say, no, you repeal the 3 laws. Yeah. And they're bad for us. We didn't ask you for the laws, so just repeal the laws. And sadly, a few people have hijacked what good was to happen in these laws. We tried to explain to them, laws are not for one state, or not only what happens in your mind. It's for the whole country, and in the whole country it's been well accepted. They've tried Bharat Bandhs, they've tried rail rokos, but received no traction anywhere in the country. Save and except those pockets where the left unions exist or the leftists have some political influence. For that matter, let me tell you, Kerala has been ruled either by the Congress or by the left front for the last decades, many decades. But you know, Kerala APMC Act at all. So if they were so concerned and they felt that APMC Acts are the only way which is good for the farmers, why did they not find the need in Kerala to enact an APMC Act? They've been in power for over 50 years, one after the other. Once the left, once the Congress. So it's a dichotomy of sorts. Their own states across the country are encouraging farmers to look at newer products, contracts, better seeds, better technologies. Everybody wants better infrastructure for the farmers. Everybody wants farmers' incomes to grow. And that's what we are trying to do. This is amongst a series of several measures. After all, Prime Minister Modi has done more for the farmers than any previous government. And this is acknowledged by no less a person than Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. When he wrote in the Times of India, in the op-ed that he wrote, that for years I've been waiting to see governments act. And what Prime Minister Modi's government has done for the farmers, no previous government has done, is Dr. M.S. Swaminathan's words in his op-ed.
And when we were kids, we used to always hear about reforms. India is not reforming enough. And there is a political cost to it. Now we realize that it's not as easy as it is made out.
Well, I think Prime Minister Modi is one leader who has not come in here to just enjoy the fruits of power or have great, that I've become the Prime Minister of this country. So he's not looking at anything except serving 135 crore Indians. His life is dedicated to the country. He's a 24-hour Pradhan Sevak who has only one single-minded devotion to change the destiny of our people, our youth. He is all the time concerned, how can we make India go back to its glorious days? How can we once again bring back our superpower status that India once upon a time enjoyed? And I think with that single-minded determination to serve 135 crore Indians, our Prime Minister will succeed. And as they say, when your determination is very strong and when you are committed to a goal, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve success. And I have the confidence that with the purity of thought and purity of deed that Prime Minister Modi has demonstrated, both when he worked for the party for several years, when he worked as Chief Minister of Gujarat for about 12 years, and now 7 years as the Prime Minister. And the longest serving political leader who, as a Chief Minister or a Prime Minister collectively, today is the longest serving public leader, combining the state and central tenure, and never lost an election. In fact, every election he seems to gain. Look at the results. After the farm laws were passed, every result, except obviously in the state of Punjab, every result, the Bharatiya Janata Party, led by Prime Minister Modi, by our party president Shri Nadda, Home Minister Amit Shah ji, Defence Minister Rajat Singh ji, this leadership has won every election from June since the ordinance for the farm laws were passed. So it's unfortunate that a small set of people have almost painted these laws black, spoiled the image of India internationally by very irrational and patently wrong comments. But the good part is that the larger community in India and even internationally understands that that the Prime Minister is working for the good of India. They have the confidence in Prime Minister Modi, and therefore going forward I have the confidence that under his leadership India has a very, very bright future.
Just moving towards the concluding set of questions. We all understand that the old consensus, the so to say Delhi consensus or Lutyens consensus, has fallen. There is this new emerging consensus which Prime Minister Modi ji calls as the New India consensus of sorts. How do you see the vision of New India shaping up in this coming decade?
Well, I think it's going to be defined by the youth of the country, and the youth today has a great personal connect with Prime Minister Modi. I mean, when he does his, for example, Pariksha Pe Charcha, you can actually see the chemistry between our youngsters and the Prime Minister. Wherever he goes, you can actually see a palpable excitement amongst the people in every place that he goes, which shows the immense popularity that he enjoys and the trust that the people have. So I have no doubt in my mind.
But vision-wise, what does that vision would entail? This coming decade is so crucial because we are going to hit, if you are not able to take demographic advantage, we will be reaching to a demographic liability of sorts. How do you understand and foresee, and what roadmap do you think the youth and the thinking minds, young thinking minds should foresee for this coming next 10 years?
I think our youth, through their innovative ideas, their entrepreneurial abilities and skills, their willingness to change, to engage with change, their willingness to be disruptive in their thinking, their willingness to explore uncharted territories, are already through the huge success of the Startup India program showing that they don't want to go down the beaten path. They want to go into a completely new world that they can see across the world, with the spread of digital technologies, with internet, with the way they are exposed to what's happening in the rest of the world. Our youth today are unstoppable. And their vision is to compete with the best in the world. Their vision is to become the best in the world. Their vision is not to ever look at being, to compromise on principles, to compromise on a better future for the nation. And as the country is, I think, reforming on so many tracks, whether it's financial sector, whether it's transparency in governance, good governance practices that we are bringing in, whether it's the fact that we are reducing government's involvement in our day-to-day lives, whether it's the removing of government from purely business enterprises and focusing on providing regulatory good practices. I think all of these are encouraging our youth, and this vision of a self-reliant, a self-confident India that Atmanirbhar Bharat presents is going to be the defining feature of India of tomorrow.
In this coming decade. Excellent. No, I agree with you, and I think this acute sense of optimism that some of the political parties might not be showing for political reasons, the youth of this country relates with it and is charged up to make India a superpower by 2030. That's what the vision that all the young minds, young thinking minds of this country have. Thank you so much, Piyush. It was such a pleasure having you on this elaborate set of intellectual discussion with you away from the din of politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajat ji. Pleasure talking to you, and my best wishes to all of you.
Thank you.